Hi, my name is Shashara, and today I'm going to be telling about what if NATO and BRICS went to war. So let's get started. If NATO and BRICS went to war, there would be many countries that would have been participating in BRICS and NATO. In NATO, there would be the US, Canada, France, Spain, Portugal, as a lot of other countries, including Poland. So with these many countries participating in NATO, BRICS, you might be thinking would lose this war, but you're wrong, because BRICS has one of the strongest nations with the strongest military and a lot of population like Brazil, South Africa, India, China, and Russia. Now, India is the second most populated country, and that's the country where I live in, so there's a lot of population in here in India, and also the military is very strong. Well, China, it is second in almost everything, in the military, economy, and basically a lot of things. That's why China is also compatible for this war. And Russia used to be very strong. It used to be stronger than the US, but then when the Soviet Union was broken, Russia became a lot weaker, and the US became a lot stronger. So that is the Delta guy. So what would happen is Russia would easily start to win this war in Europe, and a lot of other nations who are allies of Brazil or Russia or India or China or the NATO countries, they would also participate on the side of BRICS or NATO. So for starters of all, Pakistan does not like India, but it has good relations with China. So it wouldn't want to go against. It would want to go against India, but it wouldn't want to go against China. So Pakistan would be neutral. But for Afghanistan and let's say the US have been having some ongoing events of trouble wars, and Afghanistan hasn't been moving a step forward, while the US still fighting is losing the war. So Afghanistan would be really angry at this, so Afghanistan would go on the red side, obviously. You see, and they maintain good relations with Pakistan. So it's the obvious reason. And for Kazakhstan is a good ally of Russia, and it doesn't really like the US, but it also has some kind of relations with the US. So Kazakhstan will join the red team, which is the red team I'm calling is actually BRICS, and the blue team I'm going to be calling is NATO. Just so that I don't need to call them NATO and BRICS every time, I can just make them into two separate teams. I mean, not in real life, but for now, I'm just saying. And for Ukraine. Ukraine is an European country which is now currently going in war with Russia. So and plus Ukraine used to be an ally of Russia, but then it decided to join NATO, but it couldn't join before, and Russia just declared war on it. So Ukraine is basically on the NATO side, on the blue side, on the blue team actually, for now, of course. And Turkey and Azerbaijan doesn't like Russia either. So Azerbaijan will join on the blue side. side, which is actually NATO, of course. I'm again telling this. And Azerbaijan's ally is Turkey. Turkey and Azerbaijan have great relationships. They're actually allies, and that's why Turkey would obviously go for the blue team. But they have their relations with the U.S. has been struggling a lot in the recent years for obvious reasons. But we're not gonna talk about that now. Now in Brazil, Argentina doesn't really like the Brazil, and it does have good relations with the U.S. But they know that. But Argentina's military is not the strongest military in the world, even though it's the second strongest in South America. And Argentina would be neutral at this point. Chile has great relations with Brazil, and it has great relations, and it has good relations with India. But it doesn't have that much of a great relations with the U.S. So Chile would actually join on the side of the red team and Bolivia. Bolivia doesn't like Chile, and Chile is on the red team, which makes Bolivia also has some good relations with the U.S. So there are some partnerships and dealerships that Bolivia and the U.S. had. So Bolivia would obviously go with the U.S. While the other South American countries there would just go on the red team because they don't have much of good relations with the U.S. They don't have much good relations with China either. But just because they don't like the U.S., that's why. They don't like. I mean that they just don't have good relations. So this is how the war would go. India would not be struggling at all because there wouldn't be other nations who are bordering India so that they can start to fight. So India would just transport most of their military towards other countries so that they can help them, to the BRICS countries so that they can help them, and India and Saudi Arabia decided to join on the blue team because Saudi Arabia has great relations with the U.S. Its relations with China has been ongoingly really bad, as their relations has been going better and better. While Yemen could obviously be off the red team because it has good relations with China, and it doesn't like Saudi Arabia that much, and so that's why. And Iran would go on the red side, just because Saudi Arabia is on the blue side, and Saudi Arabia and Iran don't like each other that much, so that's why. So in this scenario, Russia would have the easy pull-off hand, but then after some time of conquering more countries and a lot of important countries like Poland and Ukraine, which are the most populated countries, because Russia will start to lose a lot of resources. And well, now India can send some resources over to Russia and some tanks so that Russia can keep on going, and some of the military to help Russia, because Russia and India have great relations, and China could send also some of their military to Russia and some of their military to Yemen, and some of their military to Brazil. And in this case scenario also, Taiwan would be joining on the blue side just because China is on the red side and Taiwan doesn't like China, and that's why North Korea would go on the red side also because China and North Korea have great relations, nations are actually allies. But with South Korea has great allies with the US, so obviously South Korea would go on the blue side. Japan has good relations with the US, but it used to have very bad relations, and many Japanese people are still very angry that many of the Japanese skilled people have got killed, and their military has been practicing ever since to become stronger. So they would obviously go on the red side just to get revenge on the US, and this time they will have a strategized plan. They would make sure that they have a strategized great plan, and their military divisions are great, and they move fast along the road, so that they don't need to actually lose the war like in World War II. Japan did lose the war in the war to the US, and Japan was fully annexed for so many years until it was finally get going, and Japan learned its lesson. But this time it's not gonna try and defeat anybody, it's just gonna try and take on the US. Now Australia is a country in Asia. Asia would obviously join the US because they have great relations with the US, and they have been ongoing, and their relations with India has been shrinking as a lot of troubles have gone with them of India. And New Zealand is an ally of Australia, so New Zealand would join Australia with this one and go on the blue team. And Indonesia and the Philippines would be neutral, but the Philippines have great relations with the US, and the Philippines, and there are a lot of US people in the Philippines. So the Philippines would obviously go with the blue team, and Philippines would still get knocked out by China, and China would be able to take over Taiwan and send some of their troops over to North Korea because they know that South Korea has a big military, and the US also supporting means it's shocking. And China and the US are both matchable, compatible, and they have both strong militaries and economies and technology. So this is the obvious reason. And Japan would be able to help with North Korea, sending some of their troops, and even helping defeat South Korea. After that, South Korea would be fully annexed, and China would have no reason to help out in the Asian place, but it would still send some troops to Japan and some North Korean troops and the government of North Korea would force some South Korean fleet and great trained South Korean soldiers to help fight against the Philippines and Japan, because the Japanese is the closest to Philippines, and that's why. Guys. So here there would be much more of a stalemate than more of a war. And if nuclear bombs would be used, then everything would end down really bad. So that's gonna be later on. And later on the US or China would start to begin the nuclear war, but I'm not so sure about that. And guys, I have done some research about all of this. I'm not making this up right now, guys. I have done research. I watched videos about this, so I'm not making any of this up. This is all true if NATO or BRICS decided to declare war on each other, all of this would happen. Then this case scenario would be really less, because this case scenario would not be actually real. This could never happen in real life, because the BRICS is too weak for NATO. NATO has the US, the strongest nation in the world, so obviously. But back into where I was. Japan would have a lot of stuff and would have most of the military of some other countries. India would also send some of its military to Japan to help aid it. So with this, the Philippines would be taken, and the Philippines army would be forced to go through and start to take down Australia and New Zealand. Now, in this case scenario, also India would obviously try. India would know what to do, because they have great war divisions. They can do. They have great plans. So India would obviously try and plan a division, and Russia also plans a division. India's division is for Russia. India could send some of their military and some of their technology and some of their tanks and rifle guns to help. And the Russians could create a line that could then separate the Baltic countries from Russia, making sure that Russia doesn't get more bad, so that Russia can annex the Baltic countries. You can make a line over there and separate the Baltic countries from NATO, and they would not let any of the military of NATO go through Russia and actually take control of the Baltic countries and keep them on forward. And that's why then Russia could annex all the Baltic countries and continue their invasion, and then stop at France and go around France, take Spain, and then they could corner in France from all sides and encircle it inside and take it all in. And then Russia's plan is to go straightly, so it can stop for a few seconds, and it cannot stop at all. And it can go around most of the strong countries like France and some other countries like Italy, and it would be able to take over Spain and Portugal, which would make a huge advantage for Russia, and then they could take in all of Europe. But India's plan seems a little bit more better, and the division and Russia's population is horrible right now because of all of its losses, and its military is very bad, and its economy is getting worse than ever, and that's why this could actually be a good plan. Russia does what India's plan division is, India's war division is, and it actually works out, and all of Europe is now annexed. So now it's only NATO. So now it's only NATO, which is actually just the US and Canada, and some other smaller countries with some great militaries, but not the best militaries in the world, and Turkey. And Turkey and Azerbaijan should be solved, so Russia could annex all of those Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, take them all out, and then it could focus on taking down Turkey, and some of the troops would be withdrawn from Russia. Indian troops would be withdrawn from Russia and Japan, and they would all be sent to Iran and the Russian part where Azerbaijan is controlled, and they could use the Azerbaijan fully trained troops, and most of the French troops are really good trained, and which can be used to their advantage and try and take down most of the country. Try and take down most of Turkey and Saudi Arabia. We haven't forgot about Saudi Arabia yet. And Oman is neutral at this point because it doesn't want to fight, knowing that if its side loses, then it has to pay war reparations or lose most of its population or land, and that would be a problem. So here since the NATO left countries, the US and Canada, and still those troops have been captured in Europe, and they have been forced to work under some of the Russian rule and the Indian rule. Most of their troops would be taken to Russia, India, and China, and North Korea, and some of them would even take to Japan, so that they can train them more, so that the U.S. training skills would be also taught to the other countries, which would make them even more powerful, and they would be equal as powerful as the U.S. And Japan is already really powerful right now, and India is also really powerful right now, so it will just need a little bit of time. While for Russia, it will take a lot of time because they are really strong right now, but they're not the strongest in the world. And they're not that strong also, so NATO would give all of its in to try and defend its remaining lands so that it wouldn't defeat and lose this war. But there would be a huge stalemate when Iran decides to use a bomb, not a nuclear bomb, no nuclear bombs. This is not World War III or World War III. No World War III. Just some bombs they could use for their artillery. They could put some bombs in, and it would completely obliterate the Saudi Arabian army. And some of the U.S. and Canadian people will also be demolished. Now with this, Yemen also gets the upper hand with some Japanese help and Russian help as Yemen declares war on Oman, takes it quickly, then further advances into Saudi Arabia. They all corner Saudi Arabia in, take it all in, and then declare war on the United Arab Emirates, which is the UAE, and take it all, and then Turkey, and then BRICS would be able to take down Turkey, and South Africa could send most of its troops to Russia, India, and China, and had been sending. And it would send most of its troops now, just to make sure that they don't die, and help the aid of the countries to make it easier for them, and make sure that they use less resources. And South Africa, even though an African country, is a really rich one, and it has great military, so There's an obvious reason for this. And with that Turkey would be the only one left after NATO. So over here, Turkey would start to be taken, and Turkey would easily be encircled, and then the capital would be taken down, which makes Turkey surrender. And the U.S. and Canadian troops have been slaughtered as more bombs have been shot from artillery. Some ships shoot artillery at the U.S. bases. This is completely destroying them. And the planes shoot down some even more bombs, obliterating the U.S. people and the U.S. bases. It's creating havoc, destroying offices, and then do havoc, and then wreak havoc on Washington D.C. and could wreak havoc on Washington D.C. And in Canada, Ottawa would be taken down like crazy, and Ottawa would have been slaughtered down to its knees. And then the U.S. and Canadian troops surrender. Australian troops have easily been defeated by Japan, and the New Zealand just surrenders after half of it is entirely taken, because it does not want to lose this war, and only it left, so it just surrenders. So in the peace treaty, a lot of things have changed. Russia takes a lot of Poland. It takes all of Poland. It takes all of Ukraine. It takes all of the Baltic countries. India helped also a lot. So it's given Turkey, all of Turkey, and for which here North Korea and South Korea are united under North Korean rule, and Japan gets to recreate the Japanese Empire with this time Australia and New Zealand being in the empire, and Brazil, which has tried and fended off South American countries, it would be given most of the countries that were on the side of NATO, and Brazil will also take all of French Guiana, and France would need to pay war reparations. Even though NATO didn't start the war, they still need to pay war reparations. And Spain and some of Spain's military has already been taken, and France is also, some of it has been taken, leaving France and Spain in a really bad stage. But Portugal, some of its military also taken, so it is also leave in a bad state, and its economy is ruined. And due to this, China gets more area, as it gets to control nothing, but it does get water protections, but it does get a lot of money so that it can help the economy. But then rest of that, South Africa also helping a lot of all countries would also get some. Saudi Arabia would just break down as it would be annexed by India. It would then split between India, Russia, China, Japan, and North Korea. So that is how it would end up if NATO and BRICS went to war. So that is it for today's video. Make sure to give a like, subscribe, and turn on all my notifications, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.